7 of Super Rugby Pacific kicks off here in Wellington tonight. Free ball away for Billy Proctor. Oh, that's a beautiful try.
How good the hands, how sharp the finish from Taletta.
Campbell angling back in field, linking up with McBride, and the final pass. The Reds have recorded a famous victory.
Up the big man now, McKenzie. They're going to weave his magic. Run up for two.
Super Rugby's journey into the Pacific arrives with a first ever match in the Kingdom of Tonga. The kick ahead, Ratu Maita Buki Leekens is leading the chase. Oh, brilliant! Absolutely brilliant! To pick that ball up and score in these conditions, that is sensational.
Kia ora koutou katoa, welcome to the breakdown. Strap yourselves in. We are covering some territory tonight. People, Sir John Kirwan, Taylor Johnson, Jeff Wilson is with me. Jeff potentially has the biggest smile on his face at the moment after the weekend.
If I'm Sir John Kirwan, what am I doing? I'm doing this. I'm dancing and singing, but I'm not Sir John Kirwan because I keep it real. I'm from Dunedin, we just...
You have to keep it real, you're like...
I've never been to Dunedin when it's calm, to be honest.
This is not the zoo here, all right, this is not the zoo, but I tell you what, we're back in the hunt.
Maybe the Octagon.
Playoff position, and we're coming for... I'm not sure who we're coming for, but hopefully it's you. Hopefully it's you, Sir John Kirwan, and the Blues. I'm not sure we want the Blues, but I'll take you at some point.
So you just changing the subject because last week you're saying the Crusaders are going all the way through to the final.
That was months ago, I said. That's months ago, I said that.
You've been holding up one of their jerseys a little while ago.
It was for charity.
So you know what's going to happen. Either the Highlanders are going to make it.
We're pointing fingers already. We started this. Kimberly, come on, get control of them, will you? You're in charge of the show.
I'm meant to be, but you know what? Quietly, I enjoy the chaos. It's fun. I'm happy with it. Taylor, how was your weekend?
I'm talking to chaos.
Come on.
My weekend was wet in the Kingdom of Tonga. I was there since Monday and it was beautiful weather the whole week. And of course, on game day, there was a tropical thunderstorm. The night before, all the hotels were flooded. We lost electricity. We lost running water. So, you know, everyone was a little bit hot and sweaty going into the game, but it was a great occasion. So I had a good weekend. Ate a lot of bad food, probably gained a bit of weight over in Tonga. So I'll be hitting the treble
Don't worry
after this.
about it.
It's great. It's great to have you dried out and here with us. I did want to draw your attention to one particularly cool element of the weekend that you might have missed. Have a look at this, Star Wars fans. May the 4th be with you. Everyone loves that, eh? Force.
This is
Force
awesome.
are
I
playing
don't
the
care what
Force. May
anyone
the
says.
4th.
This is amazing.
I mean, I'm trusting these Jedi to save my life. Absolutely.
I love that we're trying different things in rugby. I mean, and shout out to the Chiefs as well, because they're the ones that did the drone show and then now they've done this. Let's keep trying different things and making it fun. Get people to the game.
Why didn't anyone bring us a lightsaber for the studio?
It was like, why could I be Yoda? Clearly I'm Luke Skywalker.
Just asking if
Clearly I'm Luke Skywalker.
Just asking if
Have you seen Star Wars?
I am ending this before anyone brings up Jabba the Hutt, okay?
right,
Because
okay.
we are just not going there. We are not going there.
Chewbacca, move on. What's going on? Seriously.
We are moving on. Let's talk about this history-making event in Tonga. The first time Super Rugby has been there. Taylor, you were there. More than 10,000 fans were there. What was that experience like?
Oh, it was phenomenal. And as we kept saying throughout the coverage, the people of Tonga deserve that. They've produced so many phenomenal athletes and they were just so warm and welcoming. And it was torrential rain for 5 hours straight and that did not deter anyone from showing up. Even the dogs were there. I mean, if you've been to Tonga, you know there's 100 stray dogs out there and they managed to find their way in because literally everyone came out. As I said, the positivity was phenomenal. And as you see, there's so many people wearing Highlanders gear because good on the Highlanders. They brought all of their leftover Adidas gear since changing sponsors and gave it out to everyone.
Smart.
Yeah, very smart.
Very smart.
Yeah,
Thinking.
and look, it was good. Obviously, Folau Whakatawa is you know, from Tonga, so they went and visited his high school, which was really nice. Moana Pasifika went and visited a few high schools a few weeks ago, and I think that was the good thing about this game is it wasn't just a fly in and fly out. So Moana sent people, you know, a few weeks ago, spent a week there, you know, touring the schools, doing coaching clinics. The Highlanders did the same. As soon as they landed, they came in, they visited some schools. So it kind of left a long tail, and that's what I think needs to be done.
That's great to hear from someone who was on the ground because it would have been quite easy to have not quite done it right. But it sounds as though, and it looks as though we've had done it 100% right. The big challenge is now, how do we do it again? How do we make it better? is that where Moana Pacifica plays more often. Do other teams want to go there? And I think overall the pitches were great. Obviously, as a home game for MP and not getting the result, I'm sure they would have loved to have got it. But in those conditions, everyone was celebrating the game, very similar to what we've been getting out of Fiji for the last couple of seasons. So perfect. Congratulations to everyone that was involved.
The first thing I would do is I'd go to World Rugby and say, we need more money to host these games. I know they put money into the stadium, which is fantastic, but the amount of players that Tonga and Samoa have supplied the world, you know, and you talk about this every World Cup, what can we give back to the Pacifica? We've got to take the games there, get the locals involved. It's just a great event.
Yeah.
And if that means more internationals are going to be there, who's touring this year?
Italy.
Yeah, Italy's heading over to Tonga, and you're right, you know, World Rugby put in some money to fix that stadium because, you know, before last year they hadn't had a test match in about 3-4 years because the stadium wasn't up to scratch, so that's the key thing. But you're right, money's the biggest issue. It costs, you know, they don't have the same broadcast equipment there to even do these games, so, you know, Sky have to fly over there and, you know, freight up things, and that's expensive. You know, with Sansa, home teams have to pay for all their costs, so it's, you know, it's going to be really expensive to get there. And I know people say, oh, well, if Fiji can do it, then why can't Samoa and Tonga? But I think if you haven't been to those countries, then you don't actually realise the stark difference. You look at Fiji, right? They've got a population of just under 1 million. Tonga has 100,000 across all the islands, not even just on the main one. Samoa around 200,000 as well. And the money, it's the biggest thing, right? Like, the average weekly income, I wrote these down because people always ask, you know, the average weekly income in Samoa is 360 New Zealand dollars. In Tonga, it's 320. In Fiji, it's 900. So it's almost triple. The economy is a big thing.
I think it's the responsibility of World Rugby. This is one of our World Cup teams, one of our World Cup nations who are trying to grow. And a number of players we've seen have gone back and started representing their native country. And I think, to me, I think it's critical. It's not just they should, it's their responsibility.
Oh, look, England will be coming down with Tongan members in their side. Samoan and Tongans will be represented in the Italian team. And these are nations that are supplying rugby people to the world. You know, and we shouldn't... I love those figures, but the whole Pacifica needs to be looked after. If Fiji is doing better, I do believe, though, that they've done a better job from a high-performance point of view in their rugby, in their sevens in Fiji. I think the most important thing is that Moana Pacifica needs to survive, and it needs to... I've disagreed with them playing here. That's just my philosophy, because I think they should play in Samoa and play in Tonga. Now, if the infrastructure doesn't suit that, then you've got to go, OK, let's go up for 3 games. Let's try and do that. I also think and this didn't work out for Moana, but, you know, Fiji, it's a extra player for them going up there and playing in the heat. I mean, obviously with Tonga, with the rain, it's not great, but we need to continue to grow their game into the... well, we don't need to grow the game. It is the national sport, and both, you know. And we haven't even started talking about rugby league. You know, how many Tongans and Samoans have they supplied to rugby league?
Show.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
It's a rugby show.
But, like, you're right, though. But, look, just to one point, a population of 100,000 Tonga has, and look at how many amazing athletes they have around the world. They're just overperforming in that area.
And I think one thing that is unquestionable, right, is what it means, and you see it with the players, see it with their families and the locals when these games do go into the islands. Our very own Mills Muliaina has been over in Nuku'alofa as well, and he sent us this.
All right, we just landed. We're here in Nuku'alofa. I'm going to put these away. This is not your tropics, but you can't come to the tropics without getting a coconut, so I'm going to go grab a couple for the boys. Come on, let's go. Watermelons? What else have you got? We just landed. We thought it was going to be nice and hot in Tonga. Maybe tomorrow, eh? Thank you. Malo pito. All right. We're out. All right, day 2. This is more like it. Both teams arrived today. Looking forward to the big game, but first, some serious rugby prep.
How good is it to be home, man? You're back in Tonga, brother?
It's a blessing for me, especially growing up in here and play the first Super Rugby in Tonga. Feel grateful, eh?
Man, it's so satisfying to come home to, especially your family. Your dad's here too. Must feel good, huh?
Obviously, Dad's health not flash at the moment. For him to live and witness there again, play for me, playing Super Rugby in here, yeah, feels unreal.
Must be very, very proud of Mone. Very proud he's here in Tonga.
I'm very, very happy. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, historic day, historic event, and what a great day it was too. To celebrate Moana Pacifica's presence here in the game here. It wasn't the result they wanted, but we've had a pretty good time. All right, so that's it from Tonga. I'm going to go set up aircon, get some shelter. Later.
See what I mean about the water?
I wondered who did their makeup, to be fair. What a waste of time, let's be honest. They were volunteers straight away to go up there. Fantastic job, Mills. But come home, will you? It's time for you to do Mills's moments, but I'm doing and covering for you once again. What are we going to do? We're going to talk about the superstars that have come out of Tonga or of Tongan descent, and we're going to start with the best of the very, very best. This was the first global superstar in rugby union. Took the game to the world when he took the game by storm in 1995, going to a Rugby World Cup in South Africa. He played 73 caps for the All Blacks. He is a straight-out legend of the game. You talk about rugby around the world, you can talk about the All Blacks, but you also talk about John Olomu. And I got to witness this firsthand at both 95 and 99 and on so many occasions, and he was just a remarkable player. Tutai Kefu, legend of the game, coached Tonga up until the World Cup last year in France, and I actually didn't play this game. I was up in the coach's box, tore a calf muscle as I watched Tutai Kefu off the back of that line out, steal a ball and score a fantastic try. He was a remarkable player. 103 games for the Reds, 60 tests for the Wallabies. George Smith, this guy played 20 years of professional rugby. He played 142 games for the Brumbies. He took his talents far
I actually thought he was
wide.
Fijian.
That's why we do research in this show, JK. 111 tests for the Wallabies. He was a remarkable player, one of those great open side flankers from an era of going head-to-head against Richie McCaw for so very, very long. He was a very, very good player. And at his best, he was very, very tough. Now, this, we've heard the story. Willie Ofengawe. He's in the New Zealand secondary schools team. Goes on a plane, goes to Australia. What does Willie O do? He can't get back into New Zealand. He stays. He then goes on. He was at Western Springs College, actually. He then goes on to represent Australia and plays 41 caps for the Wallabies. So John Kirwan's tackling at his very best. Touch!
I counted that as a tackle. I actually got a shoulder on.
That was on the highlight reel.
I mean, he was counted today. I mean, Campo would have run off that one, to be fair. And then my last but not least, Isi Tolamaka. He was the coach of Tonga in 2011 at the World Cup. I was open there, Isi, but you didn't need me, as always. Fair enough. He represented the Blues, he represented the Highlanders, Chiefs, went on to Toulouse, but played 4 games for the All Blacks, and this guy was a beast, an absolute beast. When he got the ball in his hands, the back of the scrum or in the open field, a real athlete, and fortunately picked up a little bit of a ankle injury, lost a little bit at athleticism, but loved playing with him. But I do have a story about Isi Tolamaka. I'm just going to put up on the big screen. This is Monty the possum. Now, why is that relevant? Well, I can tell you just a story about part of the Highlanders. We had a clay shooting opportunity up in the Central Otago, and the team went up there. And
do you know where this is going?
I know where it's going. I know you don't like possums, but that's not a real one.
Yeah,
anyway,
right.
There was a possum, and someone suggested that maybe we should eradicate possums from around.
Yeah, that's good.
Isitola took it personally.
I hate them.
Well, Isitola took it personally. Said no. He took the possum back to Dunedin. So we thought that was the end of it. No problem. Back to Dunedin. Our next game was in Hamilton against the Chiefs. There was no scanning of bags in those days. Oh, no. Monty made it onto the plane in the carry-on luggage, up above. No, not nocturnal avenue. Nocturnal animal.
Alive. It's alive.
I'm not lying to you.
So he's kept it alive for a week.
In the hotel.
What is this, a yacht?
No, I'm not serious. And then he let it out at night and would climb up the curtains. And so I don't know who Sir Tolamaka's roommate was, but the roommate's just like this. He didn't play very well the next night. So Tony Gilbert was the coach, and Monty made it all the way back to Dunedin, but then apparently he got released back into the wild. And that's what I'm saying. Is he? Absolutely. Monty's out there somewhere. 100%.
I hope he's not.
Any
They kill our trees.
Cabin baggage. Yeah.
But what happened? Why did he? Like, I don't want to go there.
I have so many questions.
Move on.
I need to move on.
I know.
So many questions here.
That's why they got the name Scarfies and stuff like that. Back in those days, they was just
And he
like
reckons they're calm in Dunedin. I don't think so.
I'm thinking that hotel and wonders how did that get on the walls? What are those scratches?
Yeah, but how do you feed it? Like they're
They do like bananas.
feral.
There was,
like bananas.
Look, there was a.
Can we move on?
That's
Let's
another
move on.
story.
Let's move on.
I need to compose myself. Can
Yes.
we move on, please? Let's talk about the Highlanders' performance actually on the field, shall we? You did mention a bit of a shame for Moana Pacifica that they couldn't get the win in Tonga, but the Highlanders were able to emerge victorious in what ended up being a massive win for their playoff hopes.
Huge because, look, for both of these sides, both going in with 3 wins, to get that 4th win and get them probably one game closer, look, it was a really challenging afternoon, clearly, and it was going to come down to some single moments. There was some individual pieces of brilliance, but you know, I think if you think about the weekend, you think about performances, huge for the Highlanders, huge for the Reds to beat the Crusaders, obviously huge for the Crusaders not getting that win. So I think in terms of the weekend, look, there was some expected results. We got those. Blues, Hurricanes, Chiefs got the wins we probably would have expected out of them.
I thought Moana let themselves down a wee bit, Taylor, like especially with their discipline in their own half, their game management probably left a little bit to be desired. So the Highlanders were probably let off the hook a wee bit.
Well, that is the difference, though, was the game management, because I think that's where the Highlanders actually stood up more than they have in other games, is they judged the weather and they said, look, let's kick it deep, let's force the errors, and Moana played into their hands. They came up with errors, it gave them good field position and they scored, and I think Clark Dermody would actually be really happy with that performance, obviously for getting the win, but he said they want to play expansive rugby, even in the rain, and they did exactly that. I mean, we saw those beautiful tries on the wing. Jacob Tavuki's hands were incredible, you know, in that weather, and they played the style of rugby that they wanted to play. Their only issue, though, was their scrum went backwards quite a bit, so that would be the only thing that they'll need to fix up. But I think they played really well and they played smart. They played smart rugby. It was their game management that got them the win. Like, Moana turned down points, you know, in those weather conditions. If you got a kick in front, you take them. Totally. The Highlanders did that, but Moana didn't. So it goes back to that game management and letting themselves down.
Did the Highlanders need to whip the old roof off at Forsyth Bar?
Oh, the sprinklers.
The sprinklers on.
Hoses down there, don't you worry about it.
Or just
actually, we're going to take a game back to Carisbrook.
Get a whole lot of possums to chew the roof off.
Oh,
We are not going back there. We're moving on to the Crusaders. I can't segue that.
That is the weirdest story
We
I've
need to
heard.
move on to the Crusaders because that's next weekend's coming up.
Weirdest story I've heard.
Seriously?
Yeah. I knew you guys were weird down there, but that's next level.
Stop it.
A pet possum.
Yeah, you guys didn't know how to have any fun up here.
Are you getting the sprinklers out for the Crusaders after that loss? A history-making loss. Let's not forget, the Reds have not won in Christchurch in 25 years prior to this.
I will say it and I will say it again. I've been saying it since the beginning. The Reds are a really, really well-drilled side. They're well-coached. They are confident. They've had a couple of moments where they've let themselves down. I think it was the Force game, Goldie. But they are a well-drilled side, so you cannot make mistakes. The inconsistency of the Crusaders would be their biggest worry. And defensively, I thought they were average at times.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. The Reds are a really strong team, and I think people are underestimating them. I think after that game against the Blues, though, everyone, you know, was put on notice. You're right, though, with the Crusaders, they just seemed a little bit more disjointed, and I know it was David Havili's first game at 10. You know, he did some good things, but he also made some errors as well, and you'd expect that, you know, the first game in a key position up against the Reds, it wasn't exactly an easy team.
So I've been hanging on with them, right? And I've been hanging on. And it still comes down to their health. They lose Ethan Blackadder during the week. Scott Barrett gets injured, and we know how influential he was the week before, but this was a very different challenge. They needed to be on for a lot more of this game to beat a Red side who were very, very good, particularly around the contact part of the game. The Rebels weren't a challenge in that case. Fraser McWright was unbelievable in regards to his ability over the ball. I do have one question mark. I don't think this was the time to introduce Lee Halfpenny into playing at this point. Hadn't played any of the season. Shafi
Havili at 10, do you think?
Yeah, I actually had no issue with that. I think if they were looking deeper into this tournament and going, for us to win possibly, I think David Havili could have been the answer there. I think he might still be. I've got no issues with that. But, a couple of moments. You
can't tell me that they're thinking about going deep in the tournament. They've got to be winning now, man.
Yeah, I know they've got, and they're well and truly their backs are against the wall completely now. Like this is, they've got to go down to Dunedin and beat the Highlanders. Realistically.
So do the Highlanders knock out the Crusaders, or the Crusaders knock out the Highlanders for that 8th spot?
Oh, it's quite possible that that's what's on the line. I mean, if the Highlanders win, they've still got other opportunities left, but the Crusaders, really, their margins, there are no margins left. They have to get that result now. But I think there's some critical pieces of the puzzle that I don't think they found and got answers to, that they were looking for. I found the selection in some ways. Corey Kello starts ahead of Tom Christie. I'm not sure that was the right option, given that everything was on the line realistically in this game.
So ignoring the potential deep run into the playoffs, would you be persisting with David Havili at 10?
You can't put him there and then go next. Like, you'll lose, the players will lose confidence. You make a decision like that. And look, David Havili made a mistake that a centre makes when he goes to first five. Your hand-to-foot coordination and speed needs to be much faster. Damien McKenzie found the same problems. Remember, we got charged down a lot last year because you can't step back that way and kick. That's what a 12 does, right? Also, like you mentioned, Goldie, the halfback was left-footed, so he can't kick off that side. So there was a few things that went against him. But if you think Havili's the answer, he will just get better and better and better. So you've got to leave him there. You can't start swapping now. You know, you're going to lose confidence. The players will lose confidence.
But also the other 10s that are there as well, they're young and they're on long contracts. And so you're also going to knock their confidence when you're bringing in someone out of position to then take over them. So that's also something to factor in.
Can I just add one thing, though?
Yeah.
I was really surprised they took off Levi Moore. Like, I know Dallas McLeod has played for the All Blacks, but you talk about the impact in terms of the game, guy who was creating when they were behind on the scoreboard. I was surprised at that change because he, to me, was...
Is it his defence?
No, I know. Look, they needed to score points, and he was their most dangerous ball carrier. I was surprised at that substitution.
Also, one big thing for them going forward next week, and we saw him doing his fitness on the sideline, is Cody Taylor. Will be back next week, so it'll be fascinating to see how their line-out functions and their scrum functions when he is in there and what impact that has as they make their charge towards the playoffs. Speaking of, it is time to get an update from our playoff predictor, Goldie's favourite here. What are we looking at?
Well, I'm not moving today because we're going to show you one slide, and pure and simply, you've got 5 teams on the left who've got 99% chance of making the playoffs. So they're in. They're going to make it. But it's where the changes are on the other side here of the other table. The Highlanders, with that win, they go up 13% of their chances to make the playoffs, so up to 58. So that tells you they only really need to get one more win. But who's been really hurt? Moana Pacifica clearly have been hurt, and the Crusaders. Crusaders, though, still at 43%. And you'll ask why. Well, it's the strength of the teams that they're playing. History tells us that they'll beat those teams they're playing and who they have coming back. And so they've still got a strong chance, which Sir John Coohan means you will still not want to play them if they find a way to sneak in, if they get some players back. Waratahs and Force, I think they're gone. And the Drua are the other side right now who are in desperate need of a morale-boosting win. So
if I'm looking at that, you're going the Drua, so Moana out?
No, but they need... It's difficult for them now.
They've got 3 New Zealand teams to go.
OK, so they're out. So Fiji, Crusaders and the Highlanders
fighting for 2 spots.
Fighting for 2 spots.
For 2 spots.
I like it.
Yeah,
I like it a lot.
And I know there's been a lot of criticism, Taylor, around the fact that, why is there 8? You know, it should only be 6. I get all that, but ultimately it'll happen now that the last few rounds, a lot of attention, the top teams are out, they're cleared out, but it's what happens at the bottom, and I think there'll still be plenty to happen.
I'm so pleased to see the Rebels there, though. I mean, like, you know, everyone knows the financial troubles they're going through and that, look, they're probably not going to be here next year, but the way that those players have banded together and performed the way that they have is very impressive, and I like that every game now counts.
As fun as the stats are, can I get a gut check from you all? If you look at the Crusaders, and you mentioned, you know, the 43% chance still of making the playoffs, so they've got the Highlanders, Brumbies, Blues, Moana to come. How many of those do they need to win?
They've got to win 3 of those.
Yeah.
I'd just like to say, I'd like to talk about the Blues. Like, Crusaders are way down the bottom of the list, and we're not talking about the Blues.
Because the Blues... Or
the Hurricanes.
Yeah, but this is the good thing. They've gone about their business. They've done exactly what they needed to do and what we expected them to do, because they were clear.
So you want my prediction? Highlanders will make the top 8, Crusaders won't.
That's the gut check.
Oh, I love what you're saying. I'm right with you, Sir John Kerwin. Oh, yeah, he's a man. Yeah, beautiful.
Gee, we might talk about the Blues at the break, I think.
For the Possum Cup.
Plenty more to come on the breakdown. Stop it. Including why this might just be the closest Bledisloe yet. Welcome back to the breakdown. I will make you a promise. There will be no more mentions of possums on this show.
I can't guarantee that.
There will be
got a grin over here.
He's going, oh, you reckon you're in charge? Absolutely not. But what we do want to talk about is the strength of the Australian teams against the New Zealand Super Rugby teams so far this year, the potential ramifications on that when we get to the internationals. Have a look at this. So this is effectively the Aussie teams v New Zealand teams ladder, I suppose you could call it, from an Aussie team's perspective. So the Brumbies, they've won 50% of their games against New Zealand teams. Look at the Reds, who have won 3 of their 5 games against New Zealand teams. This is more impressive than we have seen, you could argue, in any sort of recent years. How does that bode for the Wallabies?
Fantastic. I'm loving it. I'm loving how close this competition is. I say every time I'm here, but I watch every single game because I know it's going to be close. Like the Reds have won 3 of their 5 against New Zealand teams, and I was saying it off camera earlier. It's because most of their Wallabies have come back, and yes, they've got those rules where you can play overseas and then come play for the Wallabies. So those guys have gone back to their respective contracts in France or in Japan or wherever they are. But the bulk of them have stayed. And, you know, we've had a lot of players leave in senior positions amongst the New Zealand teams. And so I do think the Australians have got better, but also the New Zealand teams probably haven't progressed at the same rate after that World Cup drain.
I'll say 2 things, 9 and 10. Like, I think the Australian sides across the board are better. I think we're seeing some young talent come through. But what do you do at 9 or 10? I haven't seen, you know, they're good, but I haven't seen, wow, this guy's standout. Lolosio's probably the number 1. What are you going to do at 9? And if you don't sort that out at test level, you're going to struggle. And I think that will be, you know, the biggest decision.
I look at the Brumbies and the way they've performed this year, and I think they're closest in terms of the style that they play that will suit the international game for the Wallabies. And remembering that they've got a different coaching staff now. So the shambles that was Eddie Jones and his coaching staff, we had guys quit before the Rugby World Cup. They've now got Mike Cron involved. Laurie Fisher, who's from the Brumbies, who's a legend of the game there.
Yeah.
I think if you look at them and the way that they've played and some of the key personnel they've got, and particularly a guy like Rob Valentini, he's, for me, world class, right? So I'm looking at some of their players and they needed to elevate themselves to world class to compete. Taylor, JK, Kimberley, I look at them and go, this guy's world class. They've got something they can build around. There's no doubt, I think Tom Hooper's another one. We've seen the emergence of a guy like Tim Ryan. So you all of a sudden you start building this bank of players, but also they've got a new head coach. And I think everyone's, I suppose, been given an opportunity, presented an opportunity, and I like what I'm seeing. But does it transition across the international game? We talk about it a lot here, whether it fits. Does the Super Rugby
represent? Hear my question?
9 and 10?
Yeah.
Well, and this is the thing, they've got a number of 9s. Nick White's been there and done that.
Yeah, but that's do you go back to Nick White, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, or you go back to Nick White.
Well, he's actually got options. I think he's got players who have put their hand up, Taylor.
Yeah, there's, as you say, Tate McDermott, Jake Gordon, not Tim Ryan, Tate McDermott as well. And look, it's hard to pick who is going to be that good 9 because they don't have a solid 9-10 combination across all teams. I think there's other people putting their hands up. But if I was to pick the Wallabies 9, I think I'd still go with Nick White. Yes, he's playing for the Force, but the Force, you know, they haven't been the best team, but he still has stood out playing for the Force as well. So I think I'd still pick him. But you've got like Kalani Thomas coming through. You know, he's a really good young player. So they've got a whole lot of 9s, but I don't know who would be next up.
So you go Nick White, Lolosio. Carter Gordon's obviously going to the Titans, is he?
Well, they've had a combination already at the Brumbies, right, for a long, long time before Nick White's headed across. I just think I think they've got more options than they've had. Justin Marshall sat on this panel for a few weeks and enjoyed your seat, by the way. But he talked about the fact he felt they were playing tougher, you know, the Australian sides, and were really fronting up. Now, there was a couple of performances in New Zealand which didn't support that, but the Brumbies go home and they play well back in front of their own crowd. Filippo Dungunu's one for me, for the Rebels. You know, has put his hand up in the midfield, who was good for the Reds, has been a lot better for the Rebels. I think we've got to take into account that all of a sudden they're going to be a lot more prepared, better prepared with the coaching staff that's coming on board. And the one area that they're going to have to make some gains is up front. And I think Mike Cron, with all of his IP and knowledge and what he's bringing, I think is going to get that pretty quickly.
I love the physical battle too as well. I mean, like Matt Fezler, Kyle Tizano, I think, has been really good. Yes, he's with the Force too. Liam Wright. There's a lot of guys putting their hands up in that physical. Yeah, Harry Wilson's another one too.
Dog.
Junkyard dog on the wing. We would never have had a winger in our day called a junkyard dog.
Yeah.
No way. See how we tackle?
Well, we have. We've witnessed it.
We saw that just
The
before.
interesting thing about him is he's got out-and-out pace.
Yes.
And if you can get him the ball, it's always, hey, Goldie, marking someone with real pace like this, it's like scary.
So what I want to ask at the crux of this matter, really, is this young talent that you're spotting, this talent you're spotting in the Aussie teams, are they enough to make you feel, oh, actually, this Wallabies team could be a little bit ominous when it comes to Bledisloe Cup? Will they be competitive? How competitive will they be?
They don't have a choice. They got Eddie in and he said, I'm taking these young guys. They don't have the experience that we have to lean on, even though we've lost a lot of our experience. You think about it, you know, Barrett. You know, you think about the experience that we've still got in our team, you know, Anton Leonard-Brown. We've got experience right across the park. I think Joe has to rebuild this side and he has to pick a bunch of young guys and go, I'm giving you the faith in this selection, let's go.
I think there's going to be an element of unpredictability too, because as you said, he has to rebuild that team. I don't think he's going to pick a lot of the same players that Eddie Jones did, because a lot of people were surprised at the squad that went to the Rugby World Cup. So I think there's going to be probably the biggest raft of changes we've seen to a Wallabies team in a long time.
So you've got Joe Schmidt over here, you've got Scott Robertson over here. For you, how do you then see Razor's All Blacks shaping up? How do you expect them to play?
Well, that's a significant question, is what's Razor's approach to the international game? Given where he was with this great Crusader outfit who were dominant in a number of critical areas up front, and is he expecting to use that as a weapon and the balance of the way that he played the game? And clearly, Damien McKenzie, who's got the inside running, you'd have to say at 10, is not Richie Mo'unga. Doesn't quite play the same as Richie Mo'unga. But I think it's critical, and a lot of it comes down to me is how he sees Super Rugby. He's been inside it for a long, long time. How does he judge the form? How do you judge it, Taylor? The form of players? Because quite often we've said, oh, but it's not the international game.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Some players really stand up in international rugby, and then in Super Rugby they haven't really been standing out. And it's just, you guys would know what the black jersey does to a player when you put it on. I think at the moment when you're looking at form, and I think he's got to pick on form at the moment, being a new coach, and but at the same time I think he would also look at the experience. But it's about getting the combination right, isn't it? You know, there's some key positions where you have to pick probably some newbies, and who are you going to pick? Well, it has to be on form.
I think the thing that will influence Razor on how he wants to play, which was your original question, is I think he'll be pushing for the future. What does the next innovation look like? But he has to find a balance between winning now, get his regime off to a good start. You know, we've got a solid base of experience that he can lean on, and I think he'll lean on those early. How he wants to play, I'm hoping we're going to see some innovation around style of play, but I know he was really affected by South Africa winning the World Cup again around their whole kicking game. You know, he's been right through those stats. You've got to kick it here, got to kick it there. So it'll be really interesting. I still think we have DNA in the black jersey, and that's we want to play an expansive, beautiful style of game, and I think that will be the base of it.
Well, Taylor, you touched on it in terms of some of the positions that are kind of up for grabs, and there will be real question marks over. One of them is fullback, and how's this with some stats? We've got them on the board at the moment, and this to me, when I saw it, was actually quite eye-opening. So this is a list of players who have played fullback in Super Rugby and their All Black Test caps. All right, so between all of the New Zealand players who have played at fullback this Super Rugby season, only 2 have a Test cap to their name. Sean Stevenson, Joshua Wannes was at first 5, not at fullback.
None of those, one of those for me will be in the side. And I think what I would do is I'd go Ruben Love, Barrett, and Barrett. And as your so you know that you've got one of the world's best rugby players coming back. I think Ruben Love has been outstanding all year. I think he's got pace to cover. You know, I think this kid has got a massive future there. And then I'd go Beauden Barrett, and then I'd go my third backup at a pinch is Geordie Barrett.
There's someone that's not on that list actually though who has played fullback, and that's Stephen Perofeta. He hasn't played fullback this year, but he's played multiple times and has more tests than those guys that were on there. But it is kind of worrying when Joshua Wannes, hasn't played a test since 2019, and Sean Stevenson has only played one there. But I'm with you. Ruben Love is, I think, one of the future players.
So in this calculation though, JK, what happens if he needs Beauden at 10?
I don't think he will. I think he'll do Damien. I love the way Damien plays. I keep saying this. I think he brings a different dynamic. And I think Stephen Perifeta will be the backup. And Bowden will be, like, he might do something on the bench. Like, he might go, Bowden starting at fullback and he's going to cover 10 and I'm going to put someone else on the bench.
See, I look at this, and ultimately Bowden Barrett's form last year was outstanding in the All Black jersey. He really rediscovered, and I think he's an out-and-out 15 for me now, to answer your question. And he comes back, and he's available, as are Ardie Savea and Sam Cane, for the Test matches against England. That's the way their contracts and their sabbaticals were designed. They could come back and be available. And they've finished in Japan now. They didn't make the playoffs. Voice de Corridoro. Can you give us 1 second? Because I just want to finish this. So then you talk about the balance of how you want to play. Will Jordan will be back in the Rugby Championship, right? So that's the idea, the plan around him. I think he's our next best fullback.
Can I tell you now? I've got to wait.
Oh, you got to wait. You got something. It better be really
good.
You go. Really good.
You go.
I like Ruben Love,
very
absolutely.
polite.
But I think all of a sudden we've got to find a balance of what we're going to have on the wing as well, and the competition in that position. When you've got Sevu Reece, you've got Caleb Clark in great form, Mark Talia's full on. I mean, Moni Narawa. You know, all of a sudden you've got to find the balance and have that guy. Is there someone who can play wing and fullback? That's your Will Jordan. That's a real luxury to have. All right, so I agree with you. Ruben Love to me is well and truly in the picture. But we have got guys, and particularly when Will Jordan comes back, the mix is going to be critical.
How good is Proctor going?
So good.
But anyway, I'll get back to that. Voice de Corridoro is that Sam Cane is injured.
Well, hopefully he's not.
And out.
Well, hopefully he's
for
not.
quite a time.
Oh, hopefully he's not.
That's Voice de Corridoro, so that's whispers in the corridor.
Is that the end of the world, though, when you look at some of the players who have been playing well?
Well, I think that, I mean, I love the Hurricanes loose forward trio, the young boys. I think they're all going exceptionally well. But I think in that position, I would like to see, you know, you're saying, look, I make it, but I still think Ardie's going to come into it. You know, I think Sam...
He's the World Player of the Year.
Yeah, totally.
Pretty sure he's going to come into it.
He's going to come back into it, right?
Yeah.
So, but I think we need to start grooming those young guys as Sam's going to be injured.
Yep.
So... I get him out there.
I think there's a massive competition for the 7 jersey right now. Massive competition with Dalton Papali'i. You've got Peter Lakai, obviously the development he's going through. Duplessis Karifi has been...
Do you put Ardie back to 7 and then start going... Because, you know, he was
8.
7.
Oh, 7 up.
Gee, I promise I'm not saying this just to suck up to JK, but if you want to talk about the Blues, that Blues-Hurricanes clash and the loose forward head-to-heads, that's going to be something special.
That's going to be great.
We will come back to a lot more of this shortly, but first of all, we also just wanted to take a moment here on the breakdown to pay tribute to Beachlands Marae rugby player Corey Heather. Many of you will have seen, heard and felt the tragic news of his passing last week after a club game. Just 33 years old, he's been described as a loving partner to Rachel and devoted father to their 3 young children, Stevie, Benji and Louie. Now, his death has understandably affected a lot of people in the rugby community. A lot of people will be wondering if there's anything they can do. If that is you, well, there is a Give a Little page that's been set up. It's called Support for Rachel Hercombe and her family. So if you would like to donate and support the family, please do head along to that website. Certainly our thoughts and prayers are very much with their whānau at this time. We'll be back.
We've always played with each other, you know, growing up through age grade, and the last time we played together was probably back in high school, first team rugby.
Yeah, he's always been a good role model and leader for me as a player. So I've always used to look up to him and even try and play better than him some days.
I'm just pretty grateful for just the opportunity to get a chance to play in the black jersey together, to represent the country and the sport that we love. Yeah, it's just a blessing. And as a person, I like to think of him just like any other younger brother. You know, he's mischievous at times, always gives me a hard time sometimes. You know, he's joking around. He got taller than me, got a 6-pack. I'm still waiting on that. But
he's a bit old school like my dad, just the way he dresses and acts around others.
We talked about this.
Not into these modern day clothing, I guess. Well, if I do see him wearing it, it's either he's stolen it from my cupboard.
I think overall as a player, he's just hardworking, he's dedicated, you know, he strives for it just as much as I do, and again, we're doing it just both for our family name.
Yeah, as a player, he works hard off the pitch. real good leader on that field, and just his physical attributes are just, I try to match up to it. So, yeah.
You talked about this.
Well, previously going to Cape Town last year, there's some massive learnings that we took from last year's group, just about what it's like to prepare, the teams we're going to come up against, the kind of opposition they're facing, world class really. In our pool, we've got France, winners last year. They, no disrespect, but they showed us up front. So I think what's really important for us is that we've just got to nail our detail, focus on how we want to play, the style we want to play at, and we've got to stick to that.
Forget what we've learnt and just learn as a team. Everyone is the same. Because once we head over overseas, it's only us there. Yeah, just getting that connection strong, playing for our country, the throne on our chest, and
What a gorgeous story. No Mai Hoki Mai, welcome back to The Breakdown. Members, of course, of New Zealand's under-20s team there who are playing over in Australia in the under-20s Rugby Championship at the moment. The inaugural under-20s Rugby Championship. They did draw 13-all with South Africa in their first game. They then go on to play Argentina on Tuesday before facing hosts Australia on Sunday. JK, I know you've been keeping a close eye on them.
Yeah, I watched the game the other day. I was really impressed with Stanley Lee, who was the loose forward from the Crusaders country. He was really good. I just thought he's worked really hard. I mean, they started incredibly well. It wasn't dissimilar to Tonga. It was like pouring with rain. They started really well, looked really dominant, then they let South Africa get into it. The other guy was Stanley Solomon, knee-high to a grasshopper, as someone said to me. But fast, gas, as Earl Curtin would say. But they looked good at times. There was just that under-20 sort of went off the game a wee bit, but yeah.
Yes, and that is one of our, in case you may have missed it, moments as well, because there's been a lot going on this week and we don't want to miss anything here on The Breakdown. We wouldn't do that to you. So have a wee look at this stage of some of the things you may have missed in the last week. We've touched on the under-20s. We also want to mention the second up there, Black Fern Sevens and All Black Sevens. Both have reached their respective finals in Singapore. Black Ferns will play Australia. The All Blacks will go on to play Ireland. There's also been some governance issues.
Yeah, can we talk about that, please?
No, move on.
Because I'd like to talk about it.
We've got 6 weeks apparently to wait before they have their meeting. So
yeah, but I read the media release and it made no sense to me. Can you just explain it very quickly for me and the public?
I'm just the fill-in. I'm just the fill-in. I'm not getting involved in this.
Hold on, you're not getting involved in this. They've decided to come together and they've got two recommendations. One that has been put together, obviously, by the reports, which is that's what one recommendation is. The other one is one that's been assembled by the provincial unions. So we're not going to get into that now.
No, but just for Dave, who'd been duck shooting, who sat next to me and promised me a little bit of duck to turn into duck ragu. He wanted to know that answer, so I got your answer for you, mate. You've got my address, send the ducks.
One more thing I wanted to bring up that New Zealand Rugby will be having to ponder at the moment. Look at number 4 on that list there. Ooh. Qatar going to offer...
They will not be pondering
money.
They will not be pondering it for 1 second.
Let's pretend for the sake of the argument.
We have to share it with Australia?
We're going to share it with everyone.
You have to share it with everyone. It's the nation's
There's 12 teams.
Finals that they want to go
sounds like a big amount of money.
Can I just ask, they want to host this from 2026, all right? So big money bid. Qatar, it'll always raise accusations around sports washing. Does it bother you anymore? Do people worry about it anymore? So much sport has happened in these nations now?
I go back to what Nelson Mandela said. Sport has the power to change. What I'd be expecting from our leadership, if they're going to accept the money, is to be asking some hard questions about getting change, if that's what's needed. The country is open, though. You can go touring there, you can do whatever. So we've had a FIFA World Cup there, but I would expect our leaders to ask those hard questions and make sure that they're happy with what's going on.
Would you draw a line in the sand?
Probably not at that money. Yeah. I don't think anyone would. Would they?
Look, I think there's a lot of detail I'd need to see in and behind that. And I think there's a lot of water that will go under this bridge before we sign a deal on this. But that's a lot of money, but we're seeing it invested in so many other sports now where they've gone down that path and, talk about some of the challenges we have. And if it enables us to keep our players in New Zealand and expand the depth and talent that plays in our competition, namely Super Rugby, I'm all for it, because that's what we need to become a world-class competition. At the moment, we're playing ourselves amongst ourselves. We're not really bringing in the best of the best so that the people at home and the fans who are paying get to see that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, we need to be devil's advocate here. There's no secret that teams are short of money, and they're going to be short of money for years to come until something changes. And nothing is changing at the moment in rugby. I agree with JK that we need to, you know, ask some hard questions first, and we need to see more details. But I think money is the central issue to a lot of rugby's problems.
A little closer to home, some of the problems that people may be pondering over here. And that, last but not least, on our, you might have missed it, is the injuries that have hit key All Blacks in the course of the last few weeks. Now, we saw Scott Barrett going off with that back issue. Ethan Blackadder didn't even play for the Crusaders against the Reds. We haven't seen Finlay Christie in a while. Rieko Ioane went off with concussion. Samipeni Finau went off with an arm injury. Damien McKenzie also went off with a concussion. Bit of a concern?
Nah. Not worried about it yet.
When do you start getting a little bit concerned if you're...
4 weeks to go.
Well, before the test matches.
So playoffs. So I'm worried about Ethan Blackadder because he just doesn't stay on the field. So that's a worry for me because I think he's such a good player. So I don't know, what is it, diet, something, I don't know. But I think the others, concussion, obviously we hope the boys come right pretty quickly. I don't know how bad, you know, Samipeni's arm is because I'm excited about what he'll bring to us, but I'm not worried at all yet.
What about Asafo Aumua?
Same thing. He's another one. Cam Roygaard's another one. You know, there's some significant bodies that have the talent level that will not only give us maybe options to start, but to give us their depth. And I think we shouldn't underestimate the challenge that's in front of Razor this year. The test matches he's got in front of him, the tour to South Africa for 2 test matches, and then you're taking on Ireland and France and England on an end-of-year tour again. Like, this is significant.
And Italy.
And Italy. Okay, just for JK.
Oh!
Yeah.
And Japan,
I get it. I get it.
And they're playing in Tonga. I hope the weather's better.
Yeah, but I think it's...
I had a perfect segue and you all talked over it about Japan and how that's when Cam Roygaard is meant to be back to full fitness. He's been talking to media this week. Anyway, that's fine. The moment's passed. Okay, the moment's passed. We're back to Super Rugby. There's a big couple of games coming up, obviously, in the next week. We will start with the Blues and the Canes. Surely the most mouth-watering encounter that we have got lined up ahead of us this weekend.
Oh, huge. And you said it, the loose forward battle. Oh, I'm so looking forward to that one. That is going to be huge. But also in the midfield, you know, I think that's going to be...
No Rieko Ioane this week, though.
I know he's not there, but I think the way that those two and the Hurricanes have ripped everyone up, if they can do that to this Blues backline, that also has some very, very good backs in there. I think that would be pretty telling too.
I think the reaction from the Hurricanes after their loss was exactly what they would want. It was a really good performance. I think it's going to be the best game of the season. I think there are challenges right across the park. You know, Hoskins Sotutu in form. You know, if he nails his role this week, makes his tackles, does those runs, he is really, because that's what the All Black coaches will be looking for. This is an exceptional loose forward trio for the Hurricanes. Like you said, you know, Karefi's been outstanding and he's tough and he's hard over the ball. You've got Dalton, who's incumbent. So there's just so much happening. Proctor, I think, is All Black material.
I mean, this is, in some ways, it's one of the first trial games. You're getting closer and closer when you're putting your team together. Yep, there's playoff games, and those are situations where Razor will be looking for performances when you're under pressure in a knockout game. But this is about control at top of the table and control of your destiny and getting home field advantage. That's critical in this competition. You know, how many years the Crusaders controlled that, and you had to be great to win away from home, but that gives you such a huge advantage. But I can't wait for the matchup, but this will be a war. I don't think this will be pretty. You know, they've played some really beautiful rugby, the two teams, but when they meet each other, it's going to cancel each other out a little bit.
Well, this is what I was thinking, is we've talked so much on this show about each of the team's respective packs, and the battle of these two packs, not just the loosies, but the whole lot of them is going to, well, it's going to be spicy, isn't it? Oh, absolutely. I don't want to see TJ Perenara start this game. He didn't start the game just beforehand, but when he came on, he made that difference, and there's been a lot of noise around Funaki, so I'd like to see, you know, the youngster go up against the, you know, the very experienced young man. Well, let's go quickly as well to the other New Zealand derby. That is the Highlanders and the Crusaders under the roof in Dunedin. We have talked about this one a little bit. Give me your vibe, guys. Give me your vibe. Cody Taylor's back for the Crusaders.
Look, it's as important as it is as big as the Blues Hurricanes because, like we said before, that's the top 8 spot. Crusaders lose that, man.
I'm going Highlanders. I think that win was gutsy. It was gutsy in Tonga, and they got heaps of confidence, and they actually really bonded together as a team. So I think they're actually stronger off the field too after that tour.
We've got Monty. We're just fine. We've got Monty. Monty will be there. Wow.
He's
maybe
a slipper now.
Maybe his slippers will be there. But I guarantee you, I think you'll see the Highlanders will throw every single one of them. There is. Was Monty? We've got Monty?
I can't believe you stuck in one
That's not actually Monty. Monty's about 35 years old right now.
No. I'm going to go and put myself in a carry-on bag down to Dunedin the way you're going, Jeff Wilson.
Sorry.
Thank you for joining us here on The Breakdown. It's been fun. Mā te wā.
For Morby. Morby's off again. Morby scores again. The try all day for Mark Talia. Wow. What's that runs this? Will pass inside for Morby. Linking up with Perrona.